Hi, everybody. Welcome back to On the DL. We have a special guest today. I know I always say we have a special guest, and I'm always excited to have a guest on, which is fantastic because it's my show. And I pick the people I want to speak with, who I find fascinating, who I find interesting, and also who I believe are change makers and can help you live a better life. And I really feel that Karen Carrington is one of those women who has a lot to say, has a ton to share, and is doing it in a way that is helping so many people around her. Karen, welcome to On the DL.
Dana, thank you so much for having me. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but here.
Oh, I love that. Before I get into who you are and what you do, I want to tell everyone right off the hop how we met and how and why it has stuck with me for so long. Karen and I were at an event February 2020. I was asked to speak at the Economics Club of Canada, and Karen came up to me before and after, but before, and these big, beautiful eyes looked right into my face, put her hands on my arms, and she said, Dana, I am Karen. I love you. I've been following you. I'm watching you. I hear you. I feel you. And I see you. I'm like, who's this person? Who is this person? When I did my spiel on stage, I came off. Afterwards, we sat and we chatted and we talked. And I felt like, Karen, I had known you for so long, and yet we had never met. And you totally understood. You have this thing where you just get people. You actually see people for who they are.
And I see the
And that's
beauty in people, and I saw the beauty in you, and the courage in you, and the tenacity in you. And I remember as you were bringing me back to that day when you said February 2020,
mm,
how symbolic, one of the last days that I would hug someone.
yes, it was the last time I was out.
Yeah, it was one of the last hugs.
Yeah, it was the last time. So I want to tell everyone who you are. You weren't just some random person who hugged me. Well, you are. I do get a lot of I do get a lot of random hugs. Actually, I haven't in a long time, and I missed that. But I want to tell everyone who you are. So Karen Carrington is an award-winning talk show host of the Karen Carrington Show. She's also a mental health advocate, an author, a certified personal development trainer, recipient of the 2017 Top 100 Black Women to Watch in Canada Award, and the 2020 by Black's Best Canadian Social Media Influencer Award. The Karen Carrington Show launched in 2017. It's become one of the best versions of men allowing to share and show their vulnerabilities in a safe, judgment free zone. Wow.
Mm.
And why I say wow, because when people start to hear your story, they will think the opposite. They will think, why isn't Karen Carrington hating men? Why doesn't Karen Carrington carry this like weight of the world on her shoulders and despise boys, guys, dudes, and men? And in fact, it's the opposite. You've dedicated your life, or a huge part of your life, raising up boys. That's incredible.
Even the way you say it, it brings me back to a time where you're right, Dana. You're right. I admit I did. I didn't resonate with men. You are right. I hated men.
Did you hate men?
I feel like I did not love them, or I tried to and it didn't work, or better, well, maybe a better way to say it is I didn't have the tools to love them. And so I defaulted at a very young age to assume I hated them. And to dive right into it, yeah, my upbringing was challenging as a child. I wasn't close with my father. Um, I was brought up in a strict West Indian home, and he was first generation immigrant, and he did the best he could with what he had. And it was a very strict household, and he wanted the best for us. And his strictness was, it was a lot, Dana. It was a lot. It was a lot.
It's interesting though, you say that you didn't have the tools, and even speaking in that manner of you're taking accountability, you're taking responsibility of having friendships and relationships with any human. It is two-sided. And you even are saying, even though so much has happened to you in your life because of your relationships with males and men, you
Mhm.
still take responsibility for your behavior and your action, which I want to get to. However, I do want to go back to what you were saying about your dad. Um, I will bring up this. I finally got, I'm going to show
Mm.
everyone. I received Karen's beautiful book, A Fresh Start. I received this at the 11th hour. So last night for our interview, I'm reading this and I thought, oh gosh, I'm never going to get through this. Well, I did,
Oh.
because it's a beautiful read. We're going to talk about the book in a moment, but in the book, you talk about right off the top your relationship with your dad, and it was verbally and emotionally abusive to the
Mhm.
point where you needed to get out of that environment. You needed to run from that environment. Maybe you could talk about that a
Yeah, I
little.
will. And how symbolic, you're right. The book starts chapter one right out the gates with my dad, because you're right, that was the foundation of how my story is sculpted. And
Mm-hmm.
because of the strictness, I mean, this is now at the age about 15, 16. And I'm a Canadian daughter. I just want to be
Yeah.
with my Canadian friends. I want to wear makeup. I want to go on dates. I want to skip school. And I know he wanted the best for me, but it was too much. It was just um the verbal abuse. It really weighed on me, and I started to believe those things. And I would cry, and I would be too sensitive or too soft, or call me marshmallow, and marshmallow being soft and weak, and I was overweight, so I was chubby, and just where I wasn't allowed to do after school activities. I had to be straight home and do my homework. And I know it sounds like what a child should be doing, but when there's that isolation away from my friends, sometimes grounded for the entire summer,
Wow.
for the entire
Wow.
summer. And I just sat in
Wow.
my room. And when you sit in your room, you start to think of things. And I was thinking of ways of, how could I do better? How could I be better? How could I please my father better? I just want to be a girl. I just want to have relationship. And so you're right. I left. I just left.
Where does a 15-year-old go when they
Good
walk out the
question.
front
Yeah,
door?
good
Like, where,
question.
what did you do? Because I'm as I'm reading this story, I'm feeling like heart palpitations, thinking,
Yeah.
I have teenagers and I'm thinking, where would you go?
Yeah.
And you ended up as the pages are going, I'm reading, and you ended up in a shelter.
Yeah. I never really shared this part of the story to this detail. And I did get a black eye from my father. I did have a date over that was helping me with my homework. I was 15, and I did get a black eye for that. And I remember feeling so humiliated. And I remember I got the black eye, and then he left to go do an errand. And I looked and I said, it's now or never. And you're right, I did not have a plan. I just knew I couldn't be here one moment longer. I remember running through forest. I was jumping through trees, over fences, people's backyards.
Chaos.
It was chaos. But I remember
Mm-hmm.
as I was running, I was fearful that he would find me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kept on running through the night. I would sleep at different friends' couches. I knew I couldn't stay there forever. Their parents were wanting to call him. Then I ran away and I stayed in the shelter. I stayed in the shelter for quite some time. I did a
How
lot of
long?
time. I was there for about 4 months.
Wow.
I was there
And
for about, yeah,
your parents didn't try to find you through the police or anything?
not to my knowledge.
Wow.
It was 4 months. I would come and go and wouldn't look for me. Years later, I found out that my mother was trying to find me, I believe, that she maybe didn't want to disappoint my father. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what that looked like, but I was gone for 4 months. And then after the 4 months, I did find my own place to live. So I was away from the house for about 8 months in total.
So that segues to you found a new place to live because here we go. Next part of the story. Just when you think it can't get any more, I don't want to use the word worse or heated, but it's layered. Here comes the next Karen Carrington layer.
Yeah, the next layer in there. And there's a layer that I did look for love from men. I did look for love from men. I was trying to fill that gap. And that's where that part where we started, where I start to feel like there was this love-hate relationship. I loved them. I wanted that love. I was looking for it in very many ways. Very many ways. I almost went down some pretty bad paths, Dana. I need, I'm a 15-year-old girl and I need to fend for myself.
Right.
And my heart was broken over and over and over, but I would keep on going back and trying new things. And I was looking for love. And then one day I just ended up getting pregnant. And I thought, if I have a baby, that would be the unconditional love I'm looking for.
From a man or a boy. I guess.
Yeah. Well, even with him, it didn't work. Dana, nothing was working. I'm trying
How old is the father of your firstborn?
19 at the time. We were both 19.
Oh, you were already 19 at this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So by now I'm 19. Yeah. So I'm still on the street. I'm still living on my own.
Yep. And much to like your parents' dismay, you are a teen mom.
Yeah. I'm living on my own at this time on social assistant, teen mom. And Dana, my father never met my son.
Ever?
Once, maybe when he was about 23.
And how old is your son now?
26.
Wow.
There was a lot of unforgiveness there, Dana.
So your dad, so he was abusive and he was stubborn. So that's a pretty shitty role model when you think about the kind of, our first, they say for children, like their role models with their father and their mother, those are the first role models, right? And so we can all talk about how we live the past in our relationships, right? We seem to live out what our parents gave to us as children in our first marriage, second marriage, however many marriages you go through. But I saw that in my own first marriage. I saw a lot of wrong in my childhood. And it came out in my first marriage a lot, and it had to end. So I understand how you kept living this over and over again, but you moved on.
Yep.
You picked up and you moved on. And then after your first son was born, you were still living in Ottawa at the time?
Correct. And I moved on, and I moved to the big city of Toronto, where I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a fresh start. I'm going to start again. I'm going to start where there's not this feeling to try to please my parents or please the ones around me. I didn't have the support there anyways, right?
What happened to your son's father? Where did he go?
Very good question. His parents weren't supportive of him being younger and being a father so young. So the side of the family had suggested I take the baby up for adoption, put him up for adoption.
Wow.
And
you said, okay, I'm going to go to Toronto.
That's, what? Honestly, that's exactly what I did do, because I felt this was the only thing I have is this baby. And my baby was very, very sick. He was born at 1 pound, 7 ounces. And I had him at 26 weeks due to stress of a young mom. And now suggesting giving him up for adoption, I said, you know what? I'm out. And I took that Greyhound bus and I got in that bus and I, again, didn't have a plan.
With a baby.
But there's something from the day that when I was running in the forest, I remember not having a plan, but I know God has a plan for my life. I knew somewhere I'm protected. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like, I knew I would be okay. I just knew I would be better than the situation I'm in now. I gotta be okay. So I did the same thing when I came to Toronto. I don't have much, but I know I'm better off than what I have now. And when I'm put in a position where I have no choice but to be okay, I have no choice but to be okay. So again, like you and I was kind of doing those same patterns again and looking for love, because I could run, I could jump on all these buses and shelters and fly,
Mm-hmm.
but the shit's gonna follow me, right? It's gonna
Mm-hmm.
follow me. And so I quickly married. The first year I was in Toronto. I quickly married because I felt like I was saved.
And how old are you at this point?
26.
So your first son is 7 at this point?
Correct. Yes, you're right. Yep, about 6. Yeah, 6, 7. So
Okay.
and then so I remarry, and I'll take accountability. I brought a lot of issues into the marriage. I did. I didn't do my healing. And
Healing
so
from your past?
from my past, from my father, from just from running away, from not practicing self-love.
How do
Not
you know what self-love is at 26? I don't know.
True.
I didn't know self-love at 26. I don't even think I knew self-love at 46.
Girl, I'm still working on it,
Yeah.
Well,
but it's a journey,
it's a
right?
journey.
Self-love is a journey for sure. That is a tool.
It's a journey, right?
But when you come from so much pain, it starts with, as we said, that first role model. You were disconnected from the one and only man in your life. Then your next huge experience is having a child, and that man disappoints you. And now you're in Toronto and you're remarried. Not remarried, sorry, you're married.
Married, yeah, but I'm reconnected, yeah.
Right. And there comes another baby.
Yeah. It comes another baby, and I'm thinking, okay,
this is it.
Even though there's problems in the marriage, I turned a blind eye because I'm not one to want to look like a failure. These people in Toronto, I'm making new friends now. I'm starting fresh. I want to look like that amazing wife. And in our community, in the Black community, I'm a Black woman. I want to look strong. I want to look like I have it all together. So I turn a blind eye to certain things, and I knew they were wrong, but I thought, hey, I'm the common denominator. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's something I'm doing, Dana. Maybe I need to lose more weight. Maybe I need to be more attentive. Maybe I need to get more education. I really tried to do so much self-work that it drove me into anxiety. I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. I was just so on edge on how I could be perfect for my husband, for my boys, for my friends. And in trying to be perfect, I worried so much that I didn't even know what I was worried about. I was addicted to worry. Some of us are addicted to drugs, some are addicted to alcohol. I was addicted to worry. Worry made me feel safe.
But you take responsibility, or you blame your own mental health on whatever transpired in your marriage, which I find fascinating. Fascinating. Why do you do that?
I like that question. That's a good question.
I didn't mean to throw you off with that question.
That's very important. Yeah.
I was reading the chapter about the demise of your marriage, and you talked about your anxiety and how that played such a role. And I thought, no, it didn't.
You're like, girl.
He was an asshole. He made you anxious. I'm sorry. I said this to my girlfriend many years ago. She said something about how her boyfriend at the time kept saying that she was so crazy. And I'm like, there's no such thing. Men are crazy makers.
And I was crazy to believe it, though. I believe that shit, man. It's easier to believe that I'm crazy.
Right. So here's the thing. When you do the work like you've done, Like we were in our 20s when I said that. I would never say that now. I would
Mhm.
never put that on another human being or a man or a woman or a husband or an ex-husband. The only person who can take responsibility for any kind of ill behavior is ourself. And
Mhm.
you do that when you talk about how you brought anxiety to the marriage. However, you were blaming yourself.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, where's the work that you were doing around your own mental health and at the same time dealing with a marriage that was crumbling in front of you?
Yeah, you're right. Because I was taking accountability when I came in and then started to think it was easier to blame myself because if I blamed my partner, it would perpetuate the argument and it would be flipped around. So if I just
Mm-hmm.
agreed that it was me, and because I was trying to control the situation, if I put it on me, then I can fix it. That's how I saw it at the time. If it's my fault, I'll fix it. But you're right, it caught up with me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fix someone else. I can only control myself. And so that's when I decided to get the help. I was in a corporate job at the time and it wasn't easy to admit that I'm dealing with mental health issues as a Black woman in the corporate world.
Isn't that wild that you went from living in a shelter as a teen to working in the corporate world?
Mhm.
And so many people would look at that and go, what's the issue here? Like, so whatever, she had a shitty childhood, like, so she had a
Right,
kid when she was 19, like,
right,
figure it out.
right.
And I think that everybody has their story that's so deep down.
Mm,
It's so it's so personal, and
yeah,
you share so much of it, which it's really courageous.
thank you. It's relieving and it's refreshing because when I was growing up, I wasn't amongst those who shared. There was a lot of secrets.
Mm,
And I believe there's so much healing in revealing, right? And we think people will judge us. I get that. I get that when we share. But I remember when you shared something, Dana, there was something
mm.
you said when I first fell upon you in a podcast. And it was your sharing that helped me heal in that space. I remember you had said you were courageous and made some career moves. And I remember thinking, wow, she made that move. She's creating her own destiny. She's creating her story. We all have the power to create our own stories.
Yeah, and I came from a lot, I'm open here on the DL. I try to share as much as I can. And I came from a lot of pain too. I don't have a
Mm,
perfect past. Who
mhm, who
does?
does?
And it really started to rear its head many ways for me, but that it all came out while I was dealing with where I wanted the next part of, or what the next chapter, what I wanted my next chapter to be. And so I get that sometimes you got to dig deep and bring all that painful shit to the forefront and get it out, like just like a bad flu, and
No,
just rid
yeah.
yourself. It's just a sickness, and you got to get it out. And I really did the work. I'm still doing the work because I do believe it's lifelong, but I really did the work. I really did the work. And so I started to share with people really what was my story, because what it looked like to the
Mm,
whole world, it wasn't
mm,
that. And that's when you came up to me and you said, I
mm.
see you. I was like, what? And this was before I even gave my speech,
'Cause I
before I even
knew, I
told everybody
felt it,
there.
man. I felt it, man.
And so that's why I felt so connected to you. And I thought, oh, one day we are going to have this
Mm,
conversation.
this, what's happening now?
Right. And this is going really good. I have to say, I'm loving this. So your husband, he's out. He's out. How old is your baby at this point?
8. So
You have an
8,
8-year-old, and how old's
and
your oldest?
the other one would have been, they're 10 years apart. So there was 10 years apart. So if he's 8, he's 18. And
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
fresh start
Two
again.
boys.
2 boys. 2 boys.
Okay.
And yes, go.
Okay. So you have all this male men past shit. Sorry to use these words, but
No,
I feel like
let's
let's just bring it
just,
down to the
yeah.
lowest common denominator for like, as we can. And you've got two boys you need to raise
Mm-hmm,
as a single mom.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And this is where I feel connected to you because I raised two boys as a single mom
mm-hmm,
as well. And this is where I felt not angry, but I felt like
mm-hmm,
I needed to do something in this world for them. I'm still working on it. But one of the things I was always taken aback by is the idea that as a society, as a culture, we raise up girls. Thank God we do, because had we not, we would not have the courage to sit here,
You got
right?
it. You got it.
But in the meantime, we stopped raising up our boys and we started pushing them down,
Down.
down. Now, notwithstanding, our generation, some of those boys were really bad and they needed to be pushed down a little bit,
Right. Yeah.
But this generation of boys, our kids, are the ones that have or are feeling the effect of raising up the girl. For example, my boys say to me, I remember the first time we had this conversation, that it was the International Day of the Girl.
Mm. Oh, yes.
And they didn't understand. Why is there a girl day? They're like, we're equal. Why is there not a boy day?
I love their innocence too. I love their
Right. Well, now they're teenagers. They're not
right,
so
right,
innocent now in the way they think. Like they get International Women's Day
right,
because they feel like it's more about equal pay. It's
right.
not about equality in the world. And I keep explaining to them it's not just about a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't see that because they've had a strong mother raising them
Right.
and teaching them that both men and women can do the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
This leads me to where you have taken your journey, your mental health, your advocacy, and your passion and talent and brought it all into one big, huge ball. And you created a show to help raise up men.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Why
the way
did
you
you
make,
do that?
I love the way you make it like a ball because the way you
Well,
make it
because
like a
you took it all together and you've had this brilliant idea of putting it all together into a brand, let's say,
mm-hmm.
but it's more than just a brand. It's a
It's a
movement.
yeah, it's a movement. It is a brand. It is.
Yeah, of
And
course, yes.
it is. And that's why I named it the Karen Carrington Show, because really, is it a show or is it my life? Right? Is it really my life? And that's why it was kind of easy to roll out because I'm talking about what I really live and feel and see. And
But you
so
do it with men, but you do it with men's point of view. Like you bring in the male series so men can talk vulnerably and
mhm,
openly and share. Like we were chatting about this, that you were talking about one of your guests, you're talking about sex because, well, you wanted to know.
I want to know, and I want to know from their point of view, because you're right. There was a movement where women, and as they should, have a voice. And I want to hear a man's perspective from a man. I don't want to hear my take on it. I mean, I have my opinions, but I want to hear it right from them because back to what we're talking about when I was younger and I was hurt by them, that's where this movement started. As in, if something's hurting me and I'm not liking it, I could either walk away from it or get to know it and get to know what that is. What is hurting me? If it's men, then okay, maybe understand. Why do you do that to women?
Okay, so what have they said?
Oh, girl.
Like what were some of the things that were said
It's
or have been said?
a lot. So it's things like I'll ask, and I ask with class. I'm not asking, I'm just
Yeah,
asking,
yeah.
I'm not
Oh, yes.
prying, right? I'm not prying. I just want to
Absolutely.
want to know, why do you watch porn?
Mm,
Why?
okay. Why?
Why?
Why? Why do they?
You're like, girl,
Yeah.
they a lot of them say a lot of them come from traumatized past as well.
Mm,
A lot. That's very often the answer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it turns into an addiction. It's just something they saw growing up in the home. A lot of it is to fill voids. It's like any other addiction, right? It's not all
A porn addiction or sex
both,
addiction?
both. I'm
Wow.
actually doing an episode on that in a couple of weeks. And
I'm aching to talk. It sounds terrible, but I'm aching to talk to a sex addict.
I
I
love it.
am.
But you know what? Let's go there. You just said something so key. I feel terrible saying that, but that's how I felt. I
Mm-hmm.
felt guilty wanting to know. Like
Well, because
it's
there's so
so
many people that are suffering.
right. And these topics
Mm-hmm.
are so taboo. And so I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm going to go there. I'm going to ask the questions. I'm going to make sure it's a safe, judgment-free zone. That is so important to me, that is around my branding, that when the men are speaking, that it's safe. There's no judgment, that they could say these things and know it's going to help someone else, if not help themselves by revealing. And when one man started to speak on my platform, more came out and more came out and more. And I thought, you know what? They just want to be heard. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
You don't even have to agree. You don't even have to understand. Just listen.
But do you think that part of they want to be heard comes from, and I'm sorry, I keep taking it back to your dad, but
It's
it's
okay. It's
that,
okay.
but as an example, that boys are taught to really repress that emotion, or all emotions, where they don't really verbalize how they feel to each other and out loud. And it comes out in terrible ways, as you saw with your father. And as they get older and they realize that they are vulnerable and they are emotive, or they should be emotive, and they have varying senses, their vulnerability, and they feel sensitive, and they hurt, and they love, and they are human before they are male or
Before
female,
with their, yeah,
right?
exactly.
That being heard is just a symptom now of all of this. Like, they just need an outlet.
Yeah. And I identified with that because, going back to my father, I was suppressed. My feelings were suppressed. I wasn't allowed to speak. So I identify with that, what it feels like not being able to share your emotions without being judged. So that's where that connection came, where I see you, I get you.
Mm,
I wasn't allowed to speak either.
mm,
Right? So that was one connection. And the other one was, because I had my father as a male figure and he was quite strict, when I would come across men that had emotions, it was so odd to me. Like, men feel? I've never been around a man that feels.
wow.
You feel? You know, when
Wow.
I never heard the words "I love you" from my father. So when I heard a
Never?
man, never, never,
He
never,
never said I love you.
no, no,
Is he alive?
yes,
And he's still, do you speak with him?
yes,
And he still hasn't said I love you.
and I accept it. I accept it.
Mm. Does he know how you feel?
Yes, and it's. I had to learn how to meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Meet people where they are. And I understand we come from two different worlds. And then when I lost my mother, my perspective changed on, relationships and parenting. And I
Mm-hmm.
do believe it is important to share how you feel with someone you're trying to mend with. I also feel it's important to meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you could move on with the apology that you never got. Right? I could move on with the apology that I never got. And I also learned that he shows it in other ways, in ways that best he can. And that one phone call sometimes that he does here and there,
Mm.
and he'll put in a little joke. Dana, I get what he's trying to say.
So he doesn't watch your series. He doesn't watch your show. I take that. He does not.
He did find
Really?
me after years, and well, now that he understands how to use the internet and
Oh,
blah, blah,
yes.
blah, he gets how to
Right.
watch it. And I'm going to be really candid. I'm really glad we're going there. Let's go there.
Please.
he may watch what we're talking about, and that's okay with me. That's okay with me. I need him to know how I feel. And I know as long as I'm respectful, that I'm okay to tell my truth. It's my truth. It's my journey. It's my story.
Mhm.
I would never have shared this. You and I spoke about this the other day before. In fear, even me being in my mid 40s, I'm a grandmother of a grandson, still in fear of sharing some of these things that I might get in trouble. What if I get grounded? What if I'm in for the summer? Like,
No.
those things used to come back to me. And I said, Karen,
Wow.
you gotta let go. So though that anxiety would come back sometimes. And I have to realize it is my story. And as long as stories, because I'm a storyteller, are told with truth and authenticity and coming from a good place and wanting to inspire others, then tell away.
So this leads me to this, A Fresh Start, your
Mm-hmm.
beautiful book, because you're telling a very painful story. See, I have my pens in here. This is
Yes.
bookmarked, but you're telling a very painful story. And you said you needed to do that. You needed to speak your truth, but you're also giving solutions and you're helping people with affirmations. And that is a beautiful thing because it's not just about the pain, it's about the recovery as well.
You got it. That is so key. There's such a difference of like these rants on social media and people just saying their feelings and
You
what
think?
is I just thought I'd throw that in, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
all want to just say what we feel, but okay, what's the solution then? Thanks for all your problems, but what's the solution? So I wanted to write that book from a leadership point of view, meaning yes, I have pain, but I also want to give solutions because I know there's someone out there that might be feeling some of the same things I was feeling. And not only solutions, but the workbook and the journal in there and the affirmations, daily affirmations. We all need them. I loved when you said, Dana, when you said it's a journey.
Mhm.
It's a
It
journey.
is.
And I
Yeah.
believe even, I loved when you did a self care Sunday the other day.
Yeah.
You did a
Yeah.
self care
Well,
Sunday.
yeah, I do. I try to take care of myself a little bit once a week. I give myself that, even if it's just an hour. I'm like, I do something. I try to do something nice for myself, but I do. I always say getting fresh air and going for a walk in the morning is part of my mental health. It's my walking meditation. You you say in the book that it's 11 chapters, so it's 11 snapshots of your life,
Mhm.
and you have unveiled your life story in this way. Was this cathartic for you to unveil it in a written form?
It was so cathartic. I was trying to write the book when I was here in Toronto and I couldn't. There was so much distraction.
Mm.
What I did was I flew out, went to Florida, sat under a palm tree for 10 days. I was with a family in Florida, stayed there, said, I'm coming, just pick me up at the airport. Don't ask any questions. They took me in, sat under this damn tree for 10 days. And I was writing and writing and writing. Everything was pouring out. Everything was pouring out. It was so cathartic. And then when I got to the chapter of forgiveness with my
Mm.
father and men, Dana, I couldn't write. I was having writer's block. It wasn't coming out. It was coming out more pain than solution. And I remember calling my publisher and saying, I can't get this chapter right, man. You could tell it's
Mm.
not coming out right. And I wrote a letter to my father, and I had a great conversation with my father. And I wrote a letter of everything I felt. Everything came out. I wrote like no one was watching.
Wow.
F bombs, this, that. That's how I felt. That's what you did. Blah, 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 blah. Da, 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 da. To the men
Get
that
it
heard it,
out.
got it out. I got it out. And then Dana, there was like an angel that passed by. I don't know who this man was, but I looked at him. I was by the pond, by myself, by the tree. And I said, do you have a lighter? He gave me a lighter and he walked away. Never saw this man again. And I was burning it. I was burning the letter, burning the letter. It wouldn't burn, meaning I'm not done the healing yet. had to go back and go deeper now, Karen. You're not being honest. You write everything you feel. Because when I was writing, I was still kind of holding back.
Oh, it just
More,
gave me the
more,
shivers.
more. You're going to write more. Everything came out of the things that men did to me, that I did to men, and what I need to fix in this world. I forgave myself. I didn't realize the forgiveness had to come from myself, not from others, from me. And when I finally forgave myself, then I took the lighter and that bad boy,
no way,
went in flames, because that's where I believe the moment happened, where I was ready to take on that role of true forgiveness and what that looks like, and taking on the men series. And that's what birthed the program that I have. And I wrote a book for men, and the programs that we run. And it birthed from forgiving myself and really, truly wanting to understand others. Instead of wanting to be understood, Dana, I realized the importance of seeking to understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always wanted to be understood. I felt so misunderstood. I need to start understanding. And with understanding came, so like you said, the brand and the movement, just showing men that, you know what, I'm not a man. I might not get it, but I want to understand. Help me understand.
And we created a better world when we understand each other. We know that, right? And you're doing that also for your children, and now your grandson. You just keep, it's all boys.
It's all boys. It's all boys. It's like, don't want to, yeah, I don't want to, boys. I just.
It was the same for me.
Yeah.
I grew up with 2 older sisters. I had all female cousins. I had one aunt. She didn't have children, but I had one aunt. And so there was female cousins on both sides everywhere.
Yeah.
And then my sister has the first grandchild in the family. It's a boy. And we both were looking at it, like looking at him like it was it, going, what do we do with that? What are we doing with that? And then I end up having 2 boys. And it's just the greatest gift in the world, being a mother of boys. It is just such a gift, such an insight into men, and you know, rearing boys to be good men is such a huge responsibility.
It is.
And it's so incredible that you've given men a voice to talk about so many things. How do people find your show if they're interested in?
So my website, they could always find me there at www.karencarrington.com, and there's updates there on when we go live and how to be a part of it and how to be a part of the program. Everything's there, and we're more than happy to take them through the process.
And of course, you're on all social platforms, correct? People can find you there.
If I'm not there, there's something wrong.
That's right. Exactly. You're everywhere. And it's Karen Carrington, correct?
Yes, correct. Karen.
And then how do you find a fresh start? How do you find
so a fresh start is on Amazon. Yes, it is. A fresh start is on Amazon. I have 2 of them. There's a fresh start. So thank you so much for having that book, Dana. Thank you so much. And there's also Shame Over. And Shame Over is for men. They're both on Amazon. Or if you want a personal signed copy, contact me through the website, and that will be mailed out to you.
I'm sorry, I didn't read Shame Over. I want to. I didn't. I will.
You will get Shame Over. It will be.
I would love that
sent
as well.
right to you.
You are so unbelievably refreshing because you are so unbelievably honest. And I loved our conversation. I hope you've enjoyed yourself on the DL, because I know you were saying a lot of things for the first time today. You've written about them, but saying it out loud is a whole different ball game. Yeah. So I appreciate that. I really appreciate that, Karen. Yeah, you're amazing. And I will never forget that moment that we had. I will never, ever forget that moment. But I feel like we will have many more conversations, but it was that moment. That was that very, moment. There was something about it.
I'll never forget it either. I remember watching you leave the room, and I sat on this chair and I watched you leave. And I said, until we meet again, my soul sister, until we meet again. And I watched you leave, said, until we meet again. Yeah, I'll never forget that moment. I love you.
Oh my God. I love you right back. I love you. Be well. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
See you soon.